Hi everybody, my name is Gail Nastasia, and I've decided to put together a series of videos to talk about my experiences and insights in the hopes that I may be able to help somebody. In this first video, I'd like to talk about addiction, withdrawal, and moving through and past that and into recovery. My own experience with addiction began when I was about 11. I smoked a joint for the first time, and from there I just completely took off with it. I did every pill that was put in front of me. It didn't matter if I knew what it would do to me as long as I knew it would make me feel different. I did cocaine, I drank, whatever I could get my hands on, I did. I got clean for the first time when I was 15, and although the withdrawal wasn't that bad, I still recall very well how I felt. I remember feeling like I was losing my best friend. But at the same time, I had been introduced to a recovery program, and I got to learn a great deal about the disease of addiction and the recovery process. One of the first things that I learned, and I heard over and over and over again, is that the disease of addiction, or alcoholism, is threefold. That it's physical, mental, and spiritual. The physical part, I was told, is like an allergy. That when I put one thing into my body, whether it's a drink or a drug, it automatically calls for another one. For the normal, average drinker, they don't have this, what we call a compulsion. When they drink, they can put it down after one and not think about it again. For the alcoholic or the drug addict with the drug, our next step is to do another one. And that's followed by the mental obsession, where I can't think about anything else except for getting that next drink of drug. That's my goal in life. If I have kids, if I have a spouse, if I am in school, if I have a job, no matter what it is, I'm thinking all the time, at least in the back of my head, about where I'm going to get my next one. I remember I heard somebody speak once, and he talked about how he could be in a room the size of a basketball court and have it filled to the brim with all the drugs and alcohol he could manage. And his only thought would be, but what happens when it runs out? And I knew what he meant by that. I could identify. So the mental obsession is then followed by a spiritual loss of values, where I will do absolutely anything I have to in order to get what I need. I'll lie, cheat, steal. I'll refuse to take care of the things I need to take care of. I'll let the bills pile up. I won't pay attention to my debt. So I was armed with this information at 15, and I thought that I would never pick up again, but I did. I did several times, in fact, and I got clean several times. And every time I got clean, I thought, you know, this is it. I'm never going to do this again. I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm going to be a normal, healthy, productive person and live my life like everybody else. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that way for me, and I continued to relapse, continued to come back, until the last time, in 2002. I was on my honeymoon in the Dominican Republic, and I didn't have anything. I couldn't get anything before I left. At that time, my drug of choice was anything I could get my hands on having to do with opiates. I was using the fentanyl patches, cutting open the packets and eating the gel on the inside. And while I was in the Dominican Republic, I had no intention to detox. That wasn't my plan when I went there. So I really didn't feel any gratitude whatsoever about having to go through this process. And I had the sweats and the jumpy legs and the heart palpitations and nightmares when I closed my eyes, even when I wasn't asleep. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get my mind off of these physical withdrawal symptoms. But I made it through. Obviously, I'm still here today. And when we got back, I made a decision on the flight home that I wasn't going to pick up again, because I knew that I had heard several times, you never have to go through this again. You never have to feel the way you're feeling again right now. So it wasn't long, but I got off the plane. It was probably maybe a couple of days, probably the next day, that I picked up again. And right away, I had that same feeling of impending doom. You know, at some point in time, drugs had become my friend. You know, they supported me and held me up when I felt like I couldn't do it anymore, when I felt like I couldn't take anymore. But they always turned on me in the end. And at this point, there was no benefit whatsoever. I sought relief and maybe got 2 seconds of it when I first started to feel that euphoria, when the high set in. And then it was quickly back to reality. But the last day of my use, I was at a parade. I had a bunch of pills. I took 5 and threw them up about 10 minutes later. Shortly after that, I took another handful, threw them up again. I know today that that was the grace of God, because I had no intention to stop that day. The following day, which happened to be the 4th of July, I went into detox, and I detoxed there. I was given a shot where it maintained the symptoms, so they weren't as bad as they could have been. I still felt all of those feelings. I still felt angry and irritable and discontented, but I was able to manage. When I got home, I had no intention of staying clean and sober. I wanted to. I wanted what I knew was on the other side of that. I knew that I wanted to have peace in my life and to have a family and a career and all of those things that normal, healthy people want. But I didn't think I would ever be successful. So I just kept doing it a day at a time. I didn't pick up. No matter how bad the pain was, I didn't pick up. And I'd love to say that there's some easier, softer way. And today, and that was 11 years ago, today I know there are different kinds of drugs that people can take. Back then we just had methadone. Now there are things like Suboxone and other, there's a shot I know that's available. What I believe 100% about drugs like that is that they maintain the disease of addiction, that at all times I'm either working toward recovery or I'm working toward relapse. If I am on solid spiritual ground, if I stay around people who want to support me in my recovery, if I stay away from people who are actively using, or even social people who don't understand the disease of addiction, because I've been around quite a few of them in my time. As long as I'm doing those things and I'm feeling secure in my recovery, then I'm not looking toward a relapse. The second I stop doing those things, that's where I'm going. And Suboxone is one of those things that helps to keep the disease alive. Essentially, it's like keeping a foot in the door. It says, I'm still here and I'm not going anywhere. So the moment that drug is gone, then there's a new one taking its place. Most likely not a legal one, or a prescribed one anyway. So every day that followed, it got a little bit easier. I got a little bit stronger. I started to feel comfortable in my own skin. I didn't get into the spiritual part of my life. I didn't start to focus on my spirit until many years later. But initially, the physical part, I started to take care of my body. I started to exercise. I started to eat right. Now, the drugs and alcohol had been in my life and my body for so long that it was hurting me, and I didn't even know it. After a while of continuous sobriety, I started to feel less of that mental obsession. Slowly but surely, I don't know if it was 6 months, if it was 9 months, but I started to feel more comfortable even walking into a pharmacy, because that was something that was really tough for me. I would talk to people every day about how I felt, about how I had this insane urge, this desire that didn't seem like it would ever go away. At times I felt like it would kill me if I didn't get what I needed. And of course, that didn't happen either. Here I am today, healthy and happy. So, as I said, as time went on, I started to feel better. And one day, that mental obsession was gone. I didn't feel that way anymore. And I was able to focus more on my life in the next days ahead. During those years, I did many things. I went to law school, or I finished law school. I had already started before I got clean. I had my 3rd child. I got married, as I said, and stayed married for a period of time. We bought a house and remodeled it. I did all of these things, and I was convinced that I had finally gotten everything that I wanted. But I still had this feeling of dis-ease, this uneasiness inside of me that I couldn't shake. That's when I started to finally learn about the spiritual part of the 12-step programs that I attend, as well as the spiritual part of my life.